from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today I'm very pleased. Joining me from the UK, Steve Endacott. Steve, the way I love to do it is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. So tell us a little bit about you, your background, your journey, and what you're currently up to. So the floor is yours.
I'll give you the elevator view to keep you on board, hopefully. So O-levels, A-levels, degree. I was an accountant, hated being an accountant. I just did it because I wanted to make money. It was a route into senior management. And I got corrupted into travel in the early 80s. And I became a director at 25 because I could cheat the accounting a bit more than most people. And then I worked my way through International Leisure Group. And then that collapsed after I took a year out and went back. And then I went to a company called Air Tours that ended up being the world's largest tour operator, carrying 6 million passengers. And I ended up as chief operating officer for the UK. And then in 2003, I went completely rogue and started my own businesses, which fortunately I started 4 businesses. 2 were highly, highly successful, made me lots of money. 1 went bust, was extremely painful, but taught me a lot of lessons. So I'm semi-wealthy, semi-retired, and it's now about giving back and invested in more businesses and helping younger people start up, particularly in the AI space. I love disruption, and there's nothing more disruptive to our industry, to our sector, to our economy, to our world than AI. And you haven't seen anything yet, Mehmet.
I like to start from where you ended, Steve. Why you say this? Why do you think we have not seen anything yet? What and like someone like with your experience, Steve, I'm sure like you have a lot of insights and because you work with a lot of other entrepreneurs also as well. So tell us, what are you seeing in this space?
Okay. I compare AI to like manufacturing a car. So at the moment, all the focus is on the engines. Yeah. So you have Google producing an engine, you have OpenAI with ChatGPT. So everybody's focused on the engine, which is the driving force behind the AI tools, which is the large language models. But all of those need to be put into cars. Somebody's got to say, what's the shape of the car? What's the color of the car? What's the sat nav? How many wheels it got? How many doors has it got? And that's the business case implementation of AI. And we're right at the beginning of seeing AI being implemented across our daily lives in businesses. So I think the technology, it's been around 2-3 years, it's rapidly expanding, but the implementations and the uses of that AI technology, we've not even scratched the surface.
That's very, very interesting, and there's a lot of things happening there. So I know one area you focus on is, the voice, right? And what's happening, especially in the last 2 years. I come from a technology background myself. Back in the days, we saw like early, I would say, trials for text to speech and then speech to text. But now this is completely going to another direction. And I know, Steve, like you have even some, like I would not call it, crazy, but it's bold ideas around this.
Yeah, well, you could call it crazy if you like. Let's start at the beginning. So we created a AI incubator called Neural River. And the idea was to match AI talent, young AI talent coming out of university with gray hair that could actually create businesses. Because most of these youngsters are great technicians, but they can't run a business. So therefore, we bring them into our incubator. We pay them £30,000 a year. and we give them 1 day a week for the first 6 months to work on their idea. After 6 months, we expect that idea to be proved. It goes to half their time. And after a year, we expect to be spitting them out as a separate business. And we help them raise the funds. We help them find the management. We put the MDs around them, the sales directors around them. We find the consultants and the non-execs to do sweat equity for them and to shape their idea and to deliver it into sectors as a business and not just an idea. And I think it's really crucial. There's going to be lots of ideas out there using AI. But to be a successful business is more than just the AI. You've got to have a sales team. You've got to know how to negotiate. You've got to know how to fund yourself. You've got to know how to do the cash flows. You've got to know how to do the business plans. And that's not easy. So our incubator has the aim of spinning out 10 ideas a year. And we spun out 3 so far. And the first one, as you say, is neural voice. And we've got a young CTO and CEO of that business called Jeremy Smith. And he had a simple vision. ChatGPT is conversational. It remembers what you said in previous times when you've typed in. So why not make it conversational? Why not literally just talk? It's translated. It goes into the engine or to your own database of ideas. It comes back. It responds in 0.8 seconds, which is actually faster than a human. We've had to slow it down. And you can use whatever accent you like, whatever language you like. So you can basically talk to the knowledge of the internet. Now, that is powerful in its own right. However, we've already found that too many people are scared to invest in it because they think it's too generic. Well, hang on, the big guys are doing that. They're going to come. They're going to win the world. There's no room for the small guys. Absolute, total rubbish. So we've been working on very specific user cases for the travel industry. So we've got a product called Why Fly To. So, for example, most travel businesses look to convert previous bookers, and they have about 20% success mostly. So 80% say your emails are boring. Yeah, it's one offer too many. It doesn't stimulate them to come back. I don't care. And they don't respond. So we're emailing those customers with a very simple tool that says, talk to the AI about where you want to go this year. You just choose a destination and it has the knowledge about that destination to help you refine your dream stage choice. But everything's recorded. So that dream stage qualifies what departure airport they want to go for, which destination they'll go to, how many people are traveling, what duration, what dates. And that's pumped back into the travel company CRM. So they now start marketing on future holiday demands, not just a vague idea this customer may do this because they've done it in the past. That's quite radical, but incredibly simple. And it could only work if it's a conversation because the customer doesn't want to fill out a lengthy form. They have a chat with an AI, and that's a completely different perspective. Very similarly, we're doing reviews, and we're saying, don't fill out a written review. Nobody wants to do that. Yet when you come back, we pump in information about your trip, be it a complex tour where you've done something every single day, like climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, or just a beach holiday. And the AI will know your name. It will know who you traveled with. It will know the dates you traveled and can have a conversation about what the weather was like in that period. What was your hotel like? What was the restaurant like? What were the bars like? And it can encourage you to upload photos. Now, that's a much greater and in-depth user experience and better user-generated content. And then you use AI again to create different forms. It might just be a review. It might be content you want on your website. It might be a magazine article. So you can do so many more things with AI. It just revolutionizes reviews. For example, 2 different specific examples in travel, small business, know what travel's like, has experts on its panel, and says, this is a car that we're building using the large language models. And by the way, we just plug them in and out. We are not committed to any large language model because they're changing so fast. We don't know who will win. We will just use the best at that moment.
That's really cool. And I know there's also another startup, which is also interesting, which is Life's Echo, which is it's a blending of AI, legacy, and human storytelling. Um, so tell me more about this one because I think it has something also interesting in it.
Yeah, so this originally came because Smarter UK. Basically, I'm not happy with UK politics. And my tech guys said to me, well, do something about it. And I went, yeah, but, I live in Rochdale now, and I don't really want to stand in Brighton because that's where I grew up. That's where all my friends are. That's what I know everything about. and that's 400 miles away. And went, well, why don't you create an AI character, AI Steve we created, and why don't you create a database of all your ideas and all your policies? So we did, and we stood as the first MP for Parliament, Member of Parliament, using AI. And we said to our voters, look, you could talk to me 24/7, 365, and if I've got a policy, the AI will tell you about that policy, have a conversation about it. But more interestingly, if I haven't got a policy, it's allowed to go off to the internet, research your issue, come back, engage you in a conversation, get what you want. So every night I got a list of things people wanted policies on in the Brighton area. It was taxi drivers wanted a policy to be more strict on which Uber drivers could come in. It was issues with the bins. It was issues with homelessness. It was issues with LGBTQ rights. And basically that allowed me as a politician to understand what the voters wanted, to create policies scoped on that. And it went to a specific database or to the internet. And then we got real people, commuters going up to London to vote at 1 in 10, whether they like the policies. We had a common man, common lady check to make sure we only come up with good policies. So that was an attempt to use AI to revolutionize politics. And we lost. But have a guess. No independent has ever been elected in the UK, ever, unless been a national party leader beforehand or has been in that area for 20 years. So we counted that as a success. It was radical, but that led on to Lyseco.
Right. Now, just out of curiosity, Steve, and we see this, I think, everywhere, not only in the UK. So, why, when it comes to edge technologies like AI, we see politicians like acting? I mean, sometimes we see them, especially we saw this couple of times in the Congress in the US. So you start to think for a moment, really, like this guy is asking these kinds of questions. Is it like because politicians, by nature, they like to push back, the cutting edge technologies because part of what they do is to put, you know, legislations and, they have to control and, make all these policies. Like just out of curiosity, if you have any insight, because
Oh, you did want to ask this question. So in the US, you have a dollarocracy. So the last 5 presidents were millionaires before they become president. So in the US, you cannot play in politics unless you've got loads of money, and you've already made it. So that's a weird situation, and that gives you a weird distortion. In the UK, we got an educational bias. Basically, the last 5 prime ministers have all been to Oxford or Cambridge. It's a posh boys trick, and they go off, have degrees in politics, never get a proper job, they come and run our country, and they run it quite incompetently because they don't want business people involved, because business people run things like a business. And they go, no, it's a democracy. It's not a business. Well, it'd be a lot more efficient if it was a business. So I don't actually like Donald Trump, but I do like what he's doing with Dodge. I do like how he's trying to actually make the government process more efficient and the running of our state more efficient. Because if you look at it, AI is a perfect tool to get involved in running a lot of the administrative functions are done by civil servants. But are they doing it in the UK? No, they're not. So at least in America, you've got people trying to do it. Whether they succeed, I hope so. And I do believe that America will lead in using AI in government, and that will change the rest of the world because people will go, that's quite a good idea. Why aren't we doing that?
Interesting point of view again, Steve. Now, coming back to entrepreneurship and the way you've done it yourself and you're helping like fellow founders now. I'm curious to know first from a UK perspective. Uh, the podcast, I'm lucky enough, like it's kind of a global one, and I like to shed light, on different geographies. So if you would look at the landscape today of, founders there, um, what are like some of the common challenges you're seeing them facing to be able to scale businesses really quick and get the success? And again, it could be across the board. Of course, now AI is taking the world by storm, and founders are trying to leverage, or you find like use cases where they can put also AI. And I don't want to make it too much loaded. I will stop here and then I will follow up later based on the answers from you.
Um, the UK is a little bit interesting actually, because for initial startups, it's very good because we have an incentive scheme called SEIS, Special Incentive Scheme for Investment, and it's been increased to £250,000. So if you have nothing in your bank account, I think the rule is you have to have under £100,000, and you've been trading less than 3 years, you can apply to get approval from the government for this SEIS scheme. And basically, any investor coming in and investing in your business, if he invested £50,000, he will get half that back of his next tax bill. So he's actually only investing £25,000. 50,000 cash, 25,000 back next year. He's only risking £25,000. But actually, you also get 40% back of the £25,000 if it fails. So you invest £50,000, you're only really risking 12.5K. So that means you want something to be spectacularly successful or to go bust, which is a little bit odd. But basically, that is the startup realm we have, where people want to have the high scalability, the high chances of success, but the high risk of failure as well. And there's a big incentive to get businesses off the ground. So you raise your first 250, and then there's an EIS scheme where you can raise it up to another million, where, well, it's not quite as restricted as that, but normally you can't raise more than that from angel investors. And you get 30% of your money back. So the initial fundraising to start a business is actually good in the UK. I'd say very, very good. But then you have the death zone, because all the venture capital businesses in the UK say, oh, no, we love new startups. What a lying bunch of beep. Because they actually say, we're not investing in unless you've got 200-300 grand of turnover and you've got a track record of customers and you're growing rapidly, because we don't like risk. Well, that's not venture capital. That's this expansion capital. So in the UK, you have a good startup, massive gap, and then once you get to a certain size, 3 or 4 million turnover, then you have good access to expansion capital. So it's a massive death zone that most businesses don't get through. So with Neural Voice, for example, we've raised 600,000 of angel money, and we're now raising a valuation of 4 million from venture capitalists, and now looking to put £1 million in, but they won't put it in until we've got contracted 100 grand of businesses under our book. Not unreasonable, but it takes a while. And again, a lot of the feedback we got on Neural Voice is people are actually scared of AI because they're scared of the big guys, and they assume the big guys will do everything, and there's no room for the small guys. And as I said, that's absolute bullshit. There's lots of room for the small guys. You pick your niches, you have your black books, you find people in different sectors, they open the doors, you walk through those doors, and you build specific user cases for those businesses and those sectors. And then you've got success.
So, Steve, this question, which I was planning to ask, but you touched on some of the aspects. We see this debate a lot, again, comparison between the US, UK, Europe, about fundraising, right? And that it's a real challenge. And to be very frank with you, I've seen it also myself. So I've met, at least in the past 2 years, with a lot of founders in the UK who came to Dubai because exactly the same reason you just mentioned. Now, so, some people, they say, yeah, like, let them bootstrap, grow the business, and then they go to the VCs and the VCs will give them the money. But is this a sustainable way for really, let's call it, challenging the status quo, which is Silicon Valley and the other big tech hubs? And because everyone now, back to the politics, I don't talk much politics on the show, but it's like it's on the every conversation nowadays of what's happening, with the global trade and all this. Um, every politician, every economist, everyone's saying, yeah, the global or globalization as we knew it is done. So now we need to rethink how we're going to move forward. Saying that, regarding the venture capital, what need to be done to be fixed? And I'm talking, maybe, I'm sure like you have also some insights about not only the UK, maybe probably the larger European landscape as well. So what needs to be done? I started to see some initiatives, but is it enough?
No,
Let's hear
no.
from
So,
you.
for example, for our second stage financing, we're going to Dubai for exactly the reason you say. Basically, you've got people willing to back and take risks on quite frankly, punts in the AI world. You've probably got to take 5 or 6 punts to make sure you get 2 or 3 successes, because nobody can predict accurately yet which ones will be 100% successes and which ones won't scale, which ones will the big guys come in and kill, because there is an issue there. So if you gave me a choice, I would base myself in Silicon Valley, but my wife won't let me, so that's not going to happen. Yep. If you gave me a secondary choice, I'd probably base myself in the UK with a follow-up backup scheme in Dubai for raising that second stage funding. And that, I think, is a good combination of look at the different markets and look at where you can go. But interesting enough, AI is the first product that's 100% internationalizable. So, for example, our product we could easily sell in America as well as New Zealand, Australia, Dubai, UK. And that changes the dynamics again. I'll give you an example. We didn't quite finish talking about Life Echo. So Life Echo took upon that platform we built for AI, Steve, and said, right, okay, if it's got all my political views, and my wife came up with this idea because we were out in the pub. She said, you egotistical what's it? You've documented all your political views. Why don't you document your whole life? And I went, oh, that's interesting. So Life's Echo uses an AI character to interview you over 5 45-minute segments. Your early life, your education, your family, your sports life, whatever section you want, there's options for. But we aim to get it done in 5 lots of 45 minutes. And that creates an autobiography, written autobiography. So you don't have to be posh to have an autobiography now. You can document your life and have a written autobiography. You can have pictures added. You can have videos added. But most important, at the end of the process, it generates an AI character with a clone of your voice that can talk to future generations about what you did in life and why you did it. Because one of the sad things about our lives is we're wiped from the face of the earth after 3 generations. You may know about what your parents did. You may know a little bit about what your grandparents did. The only thing you'll know about your great-great-parents or your great-grandparents even is their name and where they were born, because that's what's on the registries of legacies, etc. That's rubbish. Yeah, you have one life. Go and enjoy that life, but towards the end of that life, document it. Leave it for future generations so they can go to me, you were the first AINP. What you were doing? What, you mad? And I can explain all my logic and what I wanted to do and why I did it. Yep, so it's a really ultimate legacy tool. And I don't think anybody's got any controversy about that. What is controversial is in the UK, 32% of funerals now are what they call direct cremations, where the body's taken from the hospital, cremated, and you end up with the ashes, nothing else. No closure event. And that really doesn't help the grieving process. So we've got an ethics committee where we've got a published author of the grieving process. We've got palliative care doctors. We've got funeral home directors. We've got old people homes directors. And we said to them, what's wrong here? What could we help with? And they said the biggest thing is lack of closure events. So can you create an AI that not only can talk to future generations, but could also have the last word at their funeral? Why can't you speak at your own funeral? Why can't you sit in the corner and have a chat with people about your life? And then you haven't got the big expense. You just go and hire a hall, you go down the pub, and you have a very informal funeral that you control. That's quite radical. And some Catholics don't like it. And we've had a bit of backlash. But, you know, you can't be liked by everybody.
So it's like, and I've seen, when I was preparing for this episode, so it's like creating a ghost, right? For
Why
ourselves.
is it a
But
ghost? It's an echo.
just, joke aside, Steve, and
I'm not
I have,
joking. We built this. We're selling it.
yeah,
There's no
I mean,
joke involved in this.
I mean, my joke, sorry. Of course, it's not a ghost because I believe, you know, I see this as an evolution of what us as humans we've done in the past, I don't know, maybe 100 so years. Because the first thing we managed to do is to record our voices. Yeah, it was like crappy on these old phonographs. and we managed to take photos, right? And then we managed to full-fledged record ourselves. And I say this because I believe the next generation is so lucky, at least, you know, my generation, because somehow we saw history recorded on cinema, uh, kind of productions. Um, because history before, honestly, and this is a little bit philosophical, I tell people we don't know because someone heard from someone and then they decide to write it probably maybe 200 or 300 years ago, right? So we don't know what the truth was. But now the internet is a live archive for humans. And I'm happy to see, this use case because to your point, like I was just thinking this moment, yeah, like when was the last time I remembered what my grandparents, you know, even names, right? So now
Would you
you
be
can go,
fascinated to talk to your great grandparents about their lives? What better history could you have in your own family to
yeah,
understand where you came from? Understand, oh, my granddad's a bit like me. He's a bit of a bolshy, what's it? Oh, he's got a sense of humour. Yeah, all of this you can create in the echo. It documents you. It's an echo. You cannot be downloaded yet. It may come, but at the moment it's just recording an echo about you, what you did, what your life. It's basically creating a autobiography for the common man. So no longer you have to be rich and famous to have an autobiography. Now you can have an autobiography that is easily called from the comfort of your own couch, anytime you like. Yeah, and then the added twist is you can record your voice and it can talk about yourself. I find it fascinating. I love it.
uh, what kind of traction you saw, Steve, like when you talk to people?
Um, Two things: either hate it or love it. There's no in between. Yep, you either get this and you go, "Oh, I really like that," and most technologists really get it. We've had death threats, as you do. I've been told that this is against God's will, and he's going to come to strike me down, and I'll be eternally damned to hell for what I'm doing here. But at least that's better than some bloke saying, I'm going to shut up AI Steve by putting a axe through his head and through his body, etc., and chop it up. And I thought that was a joke until he then pointed out he had my address. He had my address. And you go, holy shit. Yep, so politics is dangerous. Hopefully AI Steve can move forward and Life's Echo won't be quite so controversial. We have gone to the Catholic Church as a whole, and they have no issues whatsoever. They go, why wouldn't you be able to leave an autobiography? What's wrong with it? Because again, you've got to look at it. You're on this life for a certain period. Every religion believes you're on this world for a while, then you go somewhere else. Every religion. There's no reason you shouldn't document for future generations what you did while you were here. Nothing wrong with that. That's not against God. That's not against religion. That's
And people
just
were doing it for a long
theoretical.
time. Like
Yeah,
autobiographies are with us for a long time, right?
correct. So I find it strange. But seriously, a lot of people just like, oh no, I don't like that. And that's fine. We've never intended to have the 100% of the marketplace. We can be very profitable with 1 or 2% of the marketplace. Because the other thing is, it's so scalable. We support 25 different languages. So we're focused on launching in the UK for obvious reasons. We're just launching now. Yeah. And we're using AI to answer the phone. We're using AI to create our adverts. Yeah. It's an AI business where we're trying to keep the staffing levels under 10 humans. Because if all the interviews are being done by AI and the accounting can be done by AI and the inbound phone calls can be handled by AI, why do we need our staff? And that also makes it a 24/7, 365 operation that could operate in multiple languages. And I find that fascinating. The boundaries we talk about globalization's ending. Rubbish. It's Donald Trump having a sulk. Yeah, he'd do a few deals. He'd throw his toys out the pram of a few countries and it'll all settle down within the next 6 months because he's a businessman as well as a politician. And he's just flexing his muscles and saying, look at big I am. And he's seeing all the people run to him. So I think he's probably right for what he's doing for America. Not great for the global stage, not great for the global economy. But if you're America first and that's what you buggers voted for, right, this is what you get.
Right. Back to just regarding the echo is maybe people are finding it creepy. I believe, the people
Yeah.
usually like refuse to, or let's say, no, 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 like that. That's never ever. Maybe because they find it creepy. Because by the way, like even I've seen people at the beginning when they started to see ChatGPT, it didn't talk yet. Oh, that's creepy. Like, like the people, they get scared sometimes from, new things because you're disrupting
Absolutely
big
correct.
time.
And that's why we're allowing people to upload videos, etc. We could do holograms. We're not going to, because we know that will creep a lot of people out. So we're just saying, no, 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 no. Just upload your pictures, and at your funeral, we can create a big red book with all your pictures in it and all your videos linked to it and all your autobiography there. So you've got a big document to hand over for future generations. We can allow you to talk to people, but we haven't got anywhere near holograms because we just think that will creep people out at the moment. But it will come.
Right.
It will be a next stage, probably a couple of years down the line. We can do it technology-wise now.
Absolutely, yeah. And, we've seen, by the way, like they did it here in Dubai. So multiple times they used the holograms to bring like people who are like, who, passed away a long time, like known figures, of course, singers, and other public figures as well. So it's this, and this is why I find it funny. Like, as you said, the technology is already here. Just, like you're taking it into another use case and in another perspective, I would say. Now, back to funding and back to startups and back to the ambition of many founders who want to have impact, both from technology perspective and of course from financial perspective, creating these unicorns. So now you talked about the VCs in the UK and the way they treat the founders, and they're not too much into taking risks. Where do you see the role of, because you mentioned about angel investors, so angel investors, incubators, um, accelerators, where do you see them playing role in helping these founders creating, the next unicorns? First within the UK, and maybe if you have like some insights on other regions also as well.
Well, let's go through the process first of all. So the most important thing for any founder is putting a team together. So I went through corporate life and I got trained in corporate life that you build a team based on your weaknesses. So if you're going to be the leader of the team, you've got to understand what you're good at and what you're bad at. So, for example, I'm great at being enthusiastic. I'm great at the driving force. I'm great at charging ahead. I'm rubbish at caution. So I've always put next to me a finance director who's highly cautious or an operations director who's highly cautious. Yep, because you've got to balance out your strengths with somebody going, are you sure, Steve? Are you doing this right? Are you doing that right? And the other thing that you learn from corporate life and probably just general investment is having a non-exec board of experienced people with black books that can open doors for you is invaluable. And that's what we're trying to do with our incubator, is match. The grey hair is just as important as the young ideas. Because if you don't balance the two out, you don't get a business. Yeah, the young people probably don't know the tax breaks. They don't know how to do the business plans. They don't know how to do the legals. And that's what we believe we help them with. And putting those two things together, but it's also very rewarding for our grey hair panel. They don't get paid a penny, but they get first rights to investment. They get first rights to negotiate some sweat equity for helping out. Yeah, so they get to see the best AI talent, some of the best ideas, front row seats in the AI world. Yeah, and they can also bring ideas. So, for example, Lice Echo, I've brought as an idea to the incubator and say, just give me some resource for it. Yeah, so I've got a larger share because I came up with the idea. But I wouldn't be able to deliver it without the AI resource in that team. Because remember, 1 day a week they work on their own project, but 4 days a week we can rent them out to other spin-outs we've already done, or we can rent them out to the general marketplace. So it creates a nice balance. And what we find is, although everybody thinks they've got their own idea, at the moment the hit rate is about half. And half the time, the other AI guys go off and go, oh, I like that idea over there. I'll go and work on that one with him. and they don't get the bigger share, but they still get a good share of that business, and they work as a team. So it's an interesting environment. I think it's a really important environment to get businesses up and running. And then you've got to find the bigger investments. And the bigger investments are normally angel syndicates you can go to actually raise big chunks of money, or to AI VCs, sorry, not AI, FEIS and EIS VCs is aggregated together a clump of investors to make bigger investments. And that's how we see it at the moment. So we see it as pure angel, individuals to go to. And then you go to VCs based on FEIS or EIS. And then you get to the expansion capital. That's how you bridge the gap. But it's still a difficult, that gap of when you're getting between a valuation of say, 2, 3, 4 million and turnover £1 million, there's a big gap. That's where the problem is. So that's where America's a lot better than most businesses. They will pump in billions into an idea. In the UK, you don't even get $1 million before you've had to prove every stat and every fact and every figure. And that's why we're a cautious company. And that's why America will always do better.
Is this changing any soon, do you think, Steve?
No. Our whole British culture is founded and ground into realistic business, financial services, etc. And gambling on AI and speculative ventures is just not in the British culture. So if you want that sort of money, go to Dubai, go to America, get it started in the UK, but then expand it with overseas investment.
So it's a destiny, you say, right? Like some people, they say like geography is a destiny, and in order to change the destiny, you need to change the geography. So,
but it's easier now with AI because, again, any investor can now see how it can be ported to their market. Life Echo, I think we will be bigger within 6 months in America and we will be in the UK, just by the nature of the people. It's a bigger market before you even get out of bed. And then the very nature of the people, they're more welcoming and willing to look at this idea and look at the concept. The British people are quite cautious. They're quite ground down into this is how things work. You have been to our Houses of Parliament and our Buckingham Palace and all the bullshit we've got with royalty, etc. I like the royalty. I like history. But Jesus Christ, really? In the modern day and age? You have a king and a queen? Still?
I think it, like I can relate a lot because now some facts, so people, they don't get surprised. Yes, here, at least in Dubai, and now Saudi Arabia is on the rise in this also as well. Yes,
We
people
like
are
Saudi
willing-
Arabia.
Yeah, so people are willing to invest yet, and there's a big yet. So just as so the culture, you mentioned culture, and I always tell people, look, like there are two factors. So people think too much about the VC, right? And the VC, they don't want to take risk, they're in their comfort zone. Now, here is the other fact that I wish people to go and check as well. Early adopters. So there's the famous, chasm, right?
Yep.
And then you have, the this graph of early adopters, and then the latecomers and the laggers who comes at the end. So I think one of the main factors that also allowed these VCs in the US to be like more risk taking is because they have this culture of accepting new technologies and trying these new technologies. Because I think maybe Europe, Middle East, same thing. Oh, let someone else try it. Once they are fine, I would, I would check it.
I fundamentally disagree with you.
Yeah, I want to hear your
Let me
opinion.
tell you why I disagree. For me, the American culture is failure is okay. You get up again and you try again. In the UK, if you ever go bust or have a business that fails, you are just, it's like being chucked out of the community.
Loser.
Failure is not acceptable in the UK. Whereas in the US, look, I tried, it failed, I'm trying something else. Perfectly acceptable, perfectly normal. We just don't have that culture. So try fast, learn fast, and fail is an acceptable policy in the US. It's not an acceptable policy in the UK. And that is the biggest issue, particularly in AI. Because, God, we've got to try lots of different things. I'm doing 10 spin outs because I expect 3, 4 maybe successful. Because who knows which ones at this moment, right at the beginning, we're at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Yeah. Okay, you may be able to predict the car. You may be able to predict that the modern looms would be better than people weaving. Yeah. But there's an awful lot of things that we can't even imagine that AI is going to do in our future because it's not here yet. It's just being invented at this very second. So you've just got to try and learn fast. So, and interesting, one of the things that we have as selection criteria for all the ideas, and I drum into my guys, is I want it to be B to B to C. Because one thing will happen in AI, it will be copied. If other people have access to the same engine, they're going to build a car. It might not be quite as good a car as your car, but they're going to build a car. So you've got to get out there super fast and get customers super fast and tie it all up by being first mover advantage, which is huge still. Yeah, because you've got all the customers under contract, you've already delivered a product to them, etc. And you should do that via B2B because they've already got the customers. Don't spend time trying to build a brand. Don't spend time trying to build lots and lots of different commercial contracts. Go and find 4 contracts with 4 large players who already have the distribution and get your product out there quick. Fundamental rule AI, it will be copied.
Good advice. So if we want to wrap up and, to give maybe your final advice to founders in the UK, let's say, and also global ones on 2 things, Steve. You just mentioned a couple of them, but other than AI, is there, like, for example, any other emerging technologies that you advise founders to keep eye on to build the next big unicorns?
I know what I'm doing. I've got an electric car business. Have a guess why? Massive disruption. Everybody's got to move to electric cars in the next 20 years. Yep. Get involved where there's disruption. Yep. Look for real businesses that if you put the AI icing on it, could be quite sexy. So AI doesn't have to be the fundamental of the business. It can be the icing on the cake. So if you've got a profitable business, but you want to increase the PE value, i.e. how many years of earnings somebody will pay from, say, 6, which is a normal PE, to 12, 15, put the AI icing on it. And that AI icing normally should be, I can now take my product and sell in 25 different more countries. Yeah. Because if you've got AI that can speak 25 different languages, why are you working in an English market where all the big companies speak English? Go to the Uzbekistans, go to the Russias, go to the Chinas, go to the smaller countries that aren't as competitive and put your products out there. With AI, you can be 24/7, different languages, have your customer support. In the old days, it was really hard to go into a new market because how do you get customer service who speak in the language? Yeah, that's been solved. So think more laterally about what the product you can create and how you can scale it globally. Forget Donald Trump. He's a little irritant that will be around for 4 years and he'll be gone. And the world will go back to normal quite quickly because global trade is a normality. And AI will make it even more normal. Yeah. So focus on what's your idea, what's your product, how you sell it in multiple marketplaces, balance your team, yeah, and accept failure. It's like going up a ladder. You'll go up 3 steps and you have to go sideways. You may have to go backwards a couple of steps. As long as you've got the ambition and the drive to get to the top of the hill or the top of the ladder, yeah, it doesn't happen. No business plan survives the first battle. It's all bullshit. The business plan will say you'll lose money in year 1, you'll break even year 2, you'll start making in year 3. How many have we written of those? How many have we read of those? It's a load of rubbish. Yeah, raise as much cash as you can when somebody offers to you. Take that idea and drive it as hard as you can.
Great advice. I like, your optimism, Steve. This is what we need. This is really what we need. I tell people, ignore the noise, guys. again, not talking too much politics, but I said like if you look to the history, it gets repeated again and again and again. And guess what? As you said, things goes to normal after a while. Like it might take some time, but things goes to normal. Um, Steve, for the UK founders who might have, some ideas and want to reach out, how they can get in touch.
Really easy. Go into LinkedIn. I'm there. Go onto the internet. Just type my name in. You'll find me via the AI Steve site. We had 110 million TV views, Mehmet. Yeah,
Wow.
unbelievable TV coverage for a brand new business that had been trading for 6 months because we took a different angle. We went, okay, how can we get noticed? Right, we're going to be the first AI MP. Lice Echo will host the first AI funeral. I guarantee you I'll get it on TV.
Absolutely.
You just got to think about how you get out there, how you find connections. When you come to me, though, please understand, I'm going to say to you, what's your valuation? And if you say, oh, it's 5 million because I think it's 5 million, I'm going to chuck you out the door. So the first thing I say to anybody is, right, okay, imagine we're going to have a PU 10. So in a couple of years' time, you'll be worth 10 times your earnings. So what are you earning in 2 years' time? Oh, I'm earning £50,000. Right, so you're worth £500,000, not 4 million. If you want me to invest, come to me with realistic valuation. Or come to me and offer me sweat equity to balance out that valuation. So I put some in cash, I put some in sweat equity, and I help you get to where you want to go. That's probably the better route.
Cool. So, people who are listening, especially if you are from the UK, you know where to find Steve. I'm gonna make the life easy. I'm gonna put some links for you so you can reach out to Steve. Steve, really, I enjoyed the conversation. As I said, I always enjoy, people like yourself who have the vision. You have also the optimism, which is for me, it's like comes as a priority because we need more voices like you, I believe, especially in the noise that's happening. And of course, the experience that you shared and all the, you know, I would say, courageous approach you took to embrace, the AI and the technology to get humans' life better, to let us stay even after we die. I think this is kind of, I'm philosophical on this, but it makes sense a lot if people really thinks about it with Echo Voice. So thank you very much for being here with me today. And I really, enjoyed it. So this is for the audience. Guys, if you just discovered this podcast, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, please, share it with your friends and colleagues and also subscribe to the podcast over YouTube, all your podcasting apps also as well. We are available there. And if you are one of the people who keeps coming again and again, guys, it's like really, 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 this year, I don't know, I can be more grateful because all the accolades that the podcast is getting, we're charting now, on top 200 charts in multiple countries. And it's not like one or two at the same time. It's like in the same week, we are now 4 or 5 countries. That today we are recording on the 16th of April. And I just discovered this morning that we are in Malta, we are in Malaysia, and we are in Spain and in Jordan. So thank you very much because, the more you share, the more people will get inspired by, great people like Steve. So keep coming. Thank you very much for tuning in and we'll meet again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Meet again. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.